Is that good? Okay.
Yes,
All
we're
right.
good.
So like I said, great. I'll try and be brief to 45 minutes so we can talk a little bit. So yeah, my presentation this morning is called Rescuing the Commons. And the commons a lot of times is a word that some people aren't familiar with. Even though I think we do use the commons every day. And I always start with the example of Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia. I'm sure that most of us in some time or another have wanted to figure something out or wanted to research a person or a place or political movement or whatever it might be, and you do a Google search and you see that Wikipedia turns up. So Wikipedia is an example of the commons. It is something that is governed by a community. It doesn't belong to any government, any governmental organization. It doesn't belong to any individual, but rather it's collectively governed by a group of people in a free open source software. I'm not a technology guru, but is an example of a place where people come together to manage a resource. In this case, the resource could be knowledge or an encyclopedia, in a way that it kind of transcends this idea that we generally have between there's either a strong state, a strong government, or a strong business or individual. So between the place of individuals and government, there is what's called the commons. And the commons have been a governance technique of small communities around the world in pretty much every continent for hundreds and hundreds of years. But especially in recent decades, I would say it's kind of been shadowed or hidden. So I want to talk a little about what is the commons. I try to keep the text here to a limit. I'll present a few short videos and things like that. But let's start with the definition. What is the commons? There's an author that I would, if you all are interested in this subject, I would definitely recommend. His name is David Bollier. He's written several books about the commons. And he defines the commons as a shared resource, co-governed by its community of users in accordance with the rules and regulations of the community. Things that can be managed as the commons include natural resources, such as land, water, air, created assets like culture and knowledge. We already mentioned the idea of Wikipedia, and can be inherited or created by men and women. But the commons refer to the process as a whole, the synergy between the elements of a community, a resource, and the rules for its co-governance. And that's important because a lot of times we think, for example, the atmosphere is a commons. Nobody owns the air we breathe. But the problem is that here, as a global community, we do not manage the atmosphere as a commons because there is not necessarily a set of rules that people adhere to. That's why perhaps maybe global warming is such an issue today. A lot of times you might say the oceans are an example of the commons, but no, they're overfished because there is not a good example of how these are governed. So when we talk about the commons, we're talking about not just the resource in itself, but how it is governed. So again, going back to Wikipedia, I don't know exactly how Wikipedia works, but there's a community of users. And so anytime that somebody uploads an article, so let's say I want to write an article about El Pital Mountain, which is the mountain where I live, I can log in and create a Wikipedia account and write up, a description and things like that. But that description, that entry into the encyclopedia has to be seen and respected by other users, and people can change that. And so there's this whole complex use of how the resource, the collective resource, which in this case is an encyclopedia or a body of knowledge, is co-governed by a group of users, right? And the same thing can be said for every different type, all different types of resources. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that I think that the idea of the commons has been overshadowed, especially recently. It's kind of been lost upon us. Because especially since the Cold War, when there was the whole fight between communism and capitalism, left and right, state and market. That's what that says in Spanish, Estado, Mercado. But there's this huge kind of dichotomy, or this, like, there's only two options available. And a lot of people have forgotten that the space of community is a space that exists between this dichotomy, right? And I think there's a lot of limitations when we come to, if we only see our options in the, between the ideas of we have to choose between a strong state, a socialist state, a communist state, or a capitalist state, and free business, free market. that dichotomy is very limiting. So in traditional left and right politics, which pretty much every country you have, several different options, but most of them try to identify between one of these two extremes. A person or a group of people has two options: vote for a party that promises to push for free trade, freedom for companies to create job opportunities, and deregulation of markets, or you can vote for a party dedicated to strengthening the state and its ability to control the economic and social realities of a country. Is that the only options that are available, however? So I want to show this picture. This is a picture of a community I used to work in Guatemala. The community is called Ilom. To get to Ilom, you take the paved highway to the town of Neba. It's about 6 or 7 hours from the capital. From there, you drive another 3 or 4 hours on these pretty horrible, backcountry roads, unpaved roads. And then you have to take a boat for about another hour and a half and then walk for another hour and a half. So this community is very remote. You can see it's not a great picture, but it's surrounded by beautiful tropical forest. And I asked the question, how does this debate between left and right politics, between communism and capitalism, what does this really mean to a community like this? This is a community that has been essentially abandoned by the Guatemalan state for hundreds and hundreds of years. There's very, very little any sort of state intervention, very little money being invested by the state. There is one public school where classes are usually 1 or 2 days a week. Not always. The state very rarely has money to send teachers out there. But at the same time, there is no private investment. There's no big companies that are creating jobs for these communities in this community. The only outside influence of recent is that there's these massive transnational hydroelectric companies who are wanting to come in and kind of take over the rivers that run through these areas and create hydroelectric power, which would be then shipped into the city, which most of the community is very much against. So I asked, like, a community like this that lives so far removed from this right-left political debate, is there another option, right? And so we turn back to the commons. The commons, when we look back at this community, that is how people manage themselves. All of the forest around there, for example, and all of these mountains we see, that's not private forest. There's not, people don't have private land deeds to that forest. It's not governed by the state. It's not a state-run forest. It's a forest run by the community. They have strict rules about where people can chop down wood, how many trees they can cut down per year, where certain people can go to forage for medicinal plants and things like that. So when we go back to this dichotomy between the state and the market, it's kind of a rhetoric where communities come together. The commons is an alternative where communities come together to control and manage resources and relationships without relying on the market, without relying on private companies, and also without relying on the government, on the state. The commons has long been one of the most important social systems that has promoted long-term care and resource management from a community perspective. The actual processes has strengthened community identity and creates a set of shared values that reinforce the state of community. So if we go back to Ilom, the community in Guatemala, the community understands, for example, that their water, they have water in their homes, and that comes from springs that are around, that are located in these mountains around there. And they understand that in order to have this shared resource of water, there has to be certain rules governing about who can use that water, who has to participate in the protection of the forest. And it has created a whole kind of set of values and set of practices where the community understands that the resources that they share are good for everybody. And it increases participation. It increases a sense of autonomy. It increases definitely or is an asset in struggling against poverty and the like. And then one other thing, the commons, where there generally, where there is a strong community that understands that there are shared resources that need to be protected together, there is always going to be perhaps more ecologically resilient landscapes. A couple of years ago, I did a consultancy job for an organization called FES that works in Asia. And they focused their efforts on, on trying to restore ecological landscapes that had been devastated by over farming, by big corporations that had come in and had done monocultures of different types of, especially palm oil. And they came back and they said, look, how can we restore these landscapes that have been so degraded, that have been so ruined? And the idea was to help communities restore traditional forms of land governance, especially focusing on the commons. And this is a picture of a landscape that used to be essentially a desert. There was very little tree cover. There was very little agriculture. The community came together. It's not land that has private ownership. There are no private deeds. It's landscape owned by the community. And over the course of 20, 30 years, those places have turned into oasis. If you look around the landscape, it's not like that everywhere, but where the community governs the land collectively, generally the ecology and the environmental sanctity of that place has increased as well. So let me just go back one more time to one more thing that David Bollier says. The commons, sorry, I didn't translate that, says el común. The commons is a self-organized system through which communities manage resources, both exhaustible and renewable, with minimal or no dependence on the market, private companies, individuals, or the state. It is a sector of the economy and of life that generates value in ways that are often taken for granted. And so a lot of times we look at a system like this and we'll see trees, water, soil, a lot of these things that we take for granted. When the community comes together to manage these resources together in a management of the commons, this creates an enormous value. It's not necessarily economic value that can be sold and traded, but it's an important value for the community in itself. So before we go forward, I also want to turn my attention to, I see that there's some things in the chat. So if anybody wants to interrupt me, I'll ask Dr. Lambert to do that. If not, I'll just continue speaking and we can share at the end. So the next part of
I don't actually see any questions.
Okay, I just saw that I saw the number 4 at the chat, so I wasn't sure.
No, it's just that someone said an impressive topic. It really is. This is really important to understand how communities can come together and manage their resources.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so when we go back to, there's a thing called the tragedy of the commons. I don't know if you all have heard of that, maybe you have, but back in, I think it was 1968, there was an anthropologist, an academic by the name of Garrett Hardin, who wrote a paper that was extremely influential, and it was called The Tragedy of the Commons. So before I go into it, I'm going to share a short video here. I think I can do that. I hope you all can see it. It's a short video, about a minute long, but it kind of gets at the basic principles of what this author Garrett Hardin called the tragedy of the commons. So let me see if I can get that started.
No, we actually can't hear anything. So I think when you share your screen, there's a little button down to the left that says share sound, and you'll need to click that. So you'll need to stop the presentation.
Okay, let me go back. Back on the sharing screen.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Share sound.
So you'll actually need to close down this one and reinitiate the sharing.
Okay, I'm going to try it one more time. Let me know if you hear it.
Back in 1833.
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me go back.
Back in 1833, William Foster Lloyd noticed something fascinating about the so-called common pastures. In other words, pastures without an owner, which can be used by everyone. He noticed that these common pastures were in considerably worse shape than those which had an owner. Why? Simply because the short-term self-interest of the people who were using those pastures made them consume too many resources, and in the long run, everyone suffered. George asked himself, should I buy another animal? And decided that yes, he'd make more money that way. He knew he was overloading the pasture, but didn't care. He wanted the extra money. The problem is that everyone did the same thing. In the end, the pasture was brutally overloaded, and therefore became unusable. Some people made short-term profits, but in the long run, everyone lost. As far as the pastures which had an owner were concerned, this didn't happen because it was in the best interest of the owners to exploit their property sustainably. Today, similar situations occur frequently. For example, with fishing grounds such as the Grand Banks of Newfoundland, which used to be home to a huge cod population. About 50 years ago, however, technology enabled people to catch a lot more fish than before. The fish population, and thereby the fishing industry, collapsed by the 90s and might never recover. The same way, humans are doing everything from polluting their Earth's oceans and atmosphere to generating traffic jams during rush hour. There we have it, the tragedy of the commons. Back in 1833,
Okay, so that's a very short and perhaps simplified introduction to what is the commons. But yeah, so Garrett Hardin said, and he was a very big proponent of privatization of land and resources. Because he looked at it and he said, yeah, what the problem is if there's not an owner of any sort of resource, then people are going to take advantage of it. And there are great examples of that, around the world. He used the example of a pasture. You could also use the example, let's say, of a forest. So if there's a huge forest that no one owns individually, or if it's not owned by the state, then people will go in and say, hey, look, I'm gonna cut down some trees so I can build a house, so I can heat my home. Then another person who has maybe a truck will come in and say, I'm going to cut down those trees so I can, take them to market and sell them as lumber. And everybody's going to exploit that resource as fastly as they can until the resource is gone. So Garrett Hardin said, we know that this is occurring, and to do this, to avoid this, we either need a strong state to regulate the resources, or we need private ownership of every resource. The problem with the tragedy of the commons. So yeah, before I go to that, other examples of that, for example, this is a little cartoon here to the left, and it's a traffic jam, probably typical to any large city in Latin America or any large city around the world. And everybody is everybody who's sitting in this traffic jam, I don't know if you can see it, but they're all saying the same thing. And they say, if these idiots would just take the bus, I could be home by now. And everybody's saying the same thing. So in a sense, the use of public roads, by people not choosing to use public transportation, you have this breakdown of order and these massive traffic jams, which not only cause huge amounts of contamination, but cause people to lose hours and hours of their day. So that's another example of perhaps of the tragedy of the commons. However, I guess we could say that those examples certainly do occur, but they are not the only example. There are thousands and thousands of examples around the world where there is a common shared resource, where there is no one owner, private property, or where there is no government ownership of the asset. And what Garrett Hardin theorized, that resource would be ruined in a short amount of time, simply hasn't occurred. So, for example, you can take the largest rainforest ecosystem on the earth, the Amazon. A lot of times you have this idea that the Amazon rainforest is this unoccupied place, this beautiful landscape where no one exists, and nothing can be further from the truth. There are thousands and thousands of Amazonian tribes. In the past, perhaps much more densely populated than we have than what we see today. And the Amazon rainforest has not been destroyed, despite the fact that these tribes do not have private property, despite the fact that there is no large governance. And it's because there were rules governing, how the forest was to be respected, how it was to be used. There was traditional forms of spirituality and religion that people adhered to together, that essentially allowed that resource to be what it is today. One of the few remaining places where we see rainforest ecosystems. And as that land has become privatized little by little around the whole contour of the Amazon rainforest, what you see is that as soon as that land becomes privatized, the rainforest gets chopped down because people want to make more money, so they will chop down the rainforest, sell the tropical hardwoods, and create cow pastures. So another real quick example I think you could say is that I used to live in a Mayan Ixil community, a Mayan community of the Ixil people. It's a small ethnic group in the northern part of Guatemala. And it goes back to what, Garrett Hardin's, the example he used. And so up in the, above these communities, there was this beautiful old growth forest. And the forest opened up to these huge kind of prairies, all throughout the forest. And everyone in the community had their herd of goats and their herd of sheep. And these were communal pasture lands. And for hundreds and perhaps thousands of years, the community had used these communal pasture lands in a way where everyone had access. But when you went to these places, they were not ecological kind of suicides or whatever. They were probably the most beautiful areas that I know of, one of these, very, very ecologically intact landscapes. And so that kind of contradicted this idea that if there is not private ownership or government ownership, the resource itself is doomed to be ruined. And one of the reasons I think of that is because there is a huge difference between resources that are what some people call open access, which means anybody can use them, anybody can take them, and resources that are collectively governed. And that's what the commons are. When we go back to that first definition that we talked about, David Bollier, he said that the commons is not just a resource in itself, but it's the resource plus the community plus the governance norms, the practices, the cultural aspects that allow that resource to be protected. So yeah, if we go back to that communal pasture I was speaking about in Guatemala, there were strict rules about how many sheep and goat herds could be placed on each pasture at each time. There were very, very strict rules about rotating throughout the pasture. So communities would use one pasture for a couple of weeks, then rotate the next one. There was all these really in-depth ecological knowledge about what had to be done to maintain that resource. The second author I want to introduce you to is Eleanor Ostrom. She's an economist who actually won the Nobel Prize for economics back in the 90s. And her entire body of work was focused on saying, look, the tragedy of the commons is happening, but there are also all these places around the world where it doesn't happen. And why doesn't it happen? What is occurring? What practice occurs so that the tragedy of commons does not happen? And she worked with indigenous communities in every continent. She worked with small farmers. She worked with different groups to see how these communities collectively managed the common resources in a way that allowed them to sustain itself. And over this long body of work of hers, she came up with what she calls 8 principles for managing a commons. And we're going to go through those real quick. I'll read them real quick, and then we're going to kind of touch on those a little bit deeper. But number one is you have to have a strong group identity and an understanding of purpose, right? If there's not a strong group identity, then anybody can come in and kind of take over that resource. Number 2, there has to be a fair distribution of costs and benefits. Number 3, a fair and inclusive decision-making process. Number 4, monitoring agreed upon behaviors. So, you got to make sure that people are observing the rules that they've adhered to. Number 5, graduated sanctions for misbehaviors. When there are people who do break the rules, who are taking advantage, there has to be some sort of sanction, some sort of teeth that ensures that the rules are upheld. Number 6, there has to be fast and fair conflict resolution. When something does happen, you can't just have it draw out into this long unavoidable conflict. Number 7, the community itself has to have the authority to self-govern. As soon as you allow the government or private or individuals to come in and usurp the governing capabilities of the community, then the commons management tends to break down. And number 8, appropriate relations with other groups. So let me just touch on those a little bit more. Again, let's go back to number 1, clearly defined boundaries. The identity of the group and the boundaries have to be clearly delineated. And many times these are geographical, right? So if we go back to a shared natural resource, it's generally going to be shared by the people who share in the community. But for example, if we go to the example of all of these open software programs, it's not necessarily a geographical community, but rather a group of communities who adhere to a shared set of rules, who want access to open knowledge, for example, what Wikipedia offers. Number 2, proportional equivalence or equality of benefits and costs. The group members should negotiate a system that rewards members for their contributions, right? If you obey the rules around the pasture, then you should continue to have access to take your sheep and your goats to the pasture. If you don't, then there's going to be a problem, right? and the benefits and the cost. The benefits are you're going to have free grass for your sheep, free grass for your goats. That translates into more meat, into more dairy products for your family and for your group, right? Number 3, collective choice agreements. Group members must be able to create at least some of their own rules and make their own decisions by consensus. People generally hate being told what to do, but they will work towards the group goals when they have agreed upon. So again, this is about, you have to be able to say, there has to be a space for debate, right? Where you can say, I like this, I don't like this. Can we change this? Can we not change this? When there is a set of rules that is pushed upon people, people are generally not going to want to follow those rules, right? Number 4, monitoring. The management of a commons is inherently vulnerable to active exploitation. And that's what Garrett Hardin said. He's like, if you don't have clear rules, if you don't have somebody monitoring those rules, there's always going to be people who are kind of considered freeloaders, right? There's always going to be someone who thinks, well, I can sneak my sheep onto the pasture, on the communal pasture when no one's looking. And maybe instead of, if I'm only allowed 10 sheep, maybe if I bring 12, no one's going to notice. Whatever it might be. You have to have some way of monitoring that to make sure that people are abiding by the rules. And if they don't, number 5, you have to have sanctions, right? You can't, that doesn't have to be necessarily, really strict and severe. If somebody brings 12 sheep to the pasture when they're only allowed 10, that doesn't mean necessarily that you automatically cut off access and say, well, you go find your own pasture because you're not allowed the communal pasture. No, you have to have graduated sanctions. And a lot of times in communities, gossip or a gentle reminder is more than enough. You don't necessarily have to expel people right away, right? Number 6, you need to have conflict resolution mechanisms. It must be possible to resolve conflicts quickly, right? And there needs to be a recognition of organizing rights. Groups must have the authority to conduct their own affairs. And that's what we said. This is where autonomy comes in, right? For example, if the U.S. government wanted to say, we're going to take over Wikipedia, and we're gonna, create a little governing authority where every time somebody, creates a Wikipedia page, it first has to be sanctioned by the U.S. government. That's going to break down the idea of Wikipedia as a commons is going to break down. People are perhaps going to trust it less because there's a governing authority. It's not a community of users, right? So the fact that the Wikipedia community has its own autonomy to manage this resource allows it a little bit more authority, right? And lastly, this is just, resource management doesn't just happen, or commons resource management doesn't just happen in a small scale, it can also happen, on a larger scale. And so for groups that are part of larger social systems, there has to be coordination. And Eleanor Ostrom saw all these examples of how, for example, communities that managed watersheds, a watershed doesn't just affect one community, but several communities. The people who are upstream should not be allowed to pollute the water, so that people downstream have to suffer from that. So there has to be coordination between these groups to make sure that the management of resources is beneficial to everyone involved, right? So let me just play one more video. Let me know if you hear it. This is kind of a response to the tragedy of the commons, a response to the idea that as soon as there's not private ownership, or government ownership, everything's gonna kind of be ruined really quickly. So here's another video real quick that responds to that idea.
The Tragedy of the Commons says that self-interest in competition can cause people to ruin a shared resource. In this case, farmers who shared a pasture overgrazed the cows for a little more milk for themselves and ended up destroying the pasture for everyone. Is there anything that could have been done? If people ruin what they share, sometimes the best avenue is to have them not share. Each farmer's self-interest will ensure that they protect their own property. But not everyone is okay with making public land private property. And some things like the oceans and the sky can't be made private anyway. Luckily, people can cooperate to protect the commons, especially if they feel like it's a shared sacrifice. Freeloaders, though, can make everyone else feel like suckers. And sometimes it only takes a few cheaters to ruin the commons for everyone. In those cases, rules are required. Research supported by the National Science Foundation has shown that privatization, cooperation, and regulation can all work to protect commons, but only if proper enforcement exists. Resources common to multiple groups can be the hardest to protect, and that's a challenging task for everyone.
Okay, so yeah, that again goes back to the fact that cooperation, rules, privatization, I would say, is not necessarily management of the commons. That's a that's kind of the opposite of the commons. It's going back to the left-right dichotomy. It's saying, well, the only way to deal with it is to make everything individualized. But no, the commons says that there can be shared resources, but there needs to be, like we said, rules, sanctions, and you know the eight principles that we had mentioned earlier. I want to also get back to, go back to this, the idea that the commons is also an opportunity for a much healthier way of communities protecting, especially their environmental resources. So here are two examples, right, of a forest. So here on the right, we have an example of pretty much any type of forest managed by, whether it be individuals trying to exploit the forest or large corporations who come in and have these huge forest plantations. Generally, there is just one set of trees, one type of trees. They're grown in strict lines. Undergrowth is either burned or getting rid of. And the idea is to try and produce a resource as quickly as possible, right? If you look on the left, you see a different type of forest ecosystem. I guess one of the differences is that there are people in this forest ecosystem, and the one on the right, there are no people. There are probably dozens of different types of species of trees in that forest ecosystem. This isn't the picture I took here on the left is from that community in Ilom in Guatemala that I had mentioned. It's an example of the community that had come together to manage the collective resource of the forest, and they had strict rules about how many trees could be cut down each year. And whenever this is a huge old growth oak tree that grew in the community that was felled because there was a kind of like a young furniture cooperative of young people, and they were learning how to turn their resources, in this case high value tropical hardwood trees, into high value products, in this case furniture that could be sold, that was taken to Guatemala City and sold there. And so these are two different examples. So if you look at the example on the right, this is probably what happens if you turn over a forest ecosystem to either a government or to an individual. The idea, which generally happens in whether it be state-run economic systems or capitalist private property focused systems, is that people are focused on maximizing output. We live in a growth economy where everybody wants to get ahead. And so when you come to the forest, the best way to make money is to plant one source of trees, harvest it as quickly as possible, clear cut the forest, and then plant again, right? But there are enormous amounts of ecological studies say that this really isn't a forest. This is a plantation. This is you're not going to see animals there. The forest ecosystem itself is struggling. It's probably very susceptible to all of these different types of infestations of insects and fungi and things like that. The one on the left is a different example. There might not this type of forest might not necessarily have the same amount of economic output as the one on the right, but it has tremendous amounts of value, both ecologically, it's capturing carbon, it's helping regulate water cycles, but it also has tremendous value for the people that manage it. So not only are young people getting access to a high quality resource in tropical hardwoods to create furniture that they can sell and support their families, but they also know that forest, that diversified forest, is habitat for all sorts of different types of animals. Old women and would go into the forest and collect medicinal plants to treat all sorts of different types of illnesses and health problems. People are allowed to harvest their own firewood so that they can cook for their families. There's an enormous amount of benefits that oftentimes are not accounted, right? And this happens because it is a resource that is shared by the community, and there are clear rules that define it, right? Okay, I'm almost done. I have just a few more slides to finish up kind of my conclusion. So yeah, I guess the question here is going back to the whole community development idea. Those of us who work in community or have worked or do work in community development, why are the commons? Why is this idea important? And I would say oftentimes, perhaps unfortunately, non-government organizations, aid organizations, development organizations are usually seen as an extension of either the state or the market, right? So when you come into community times, a lot of times communities see nonprofits as just another financing organization that either promote, state-run or privatized management of resources. And here's a good example. Sorry. Here's a good example. Here in El Salvador, where we live, pretty much every year, there's a huge water crisis, especially in the city of San Salvador. One of the problems is that we don't have, the best water system. We have a long dry season. So at the end of the dry season, communities are always talking about, hey, look, all of these urban communities don't have water. And every time that this happens, there's always these huge protests. And there's generally two different types of protests, right? There's one type of group that goes out and say, we demand that the government respond to this issue. The government needs to improve the water systems. We need to have better better management of the rivers and the springs, and update all of the water distribution systems, because water is a human right and the government has to provide it for us. So that's one source. And then there's always another group of communities, usually those who are more inclined to the right politically, who say, no, the state is not capable of doing this. We need to privatize the water industry. And so there's this huge push to privatize the water industry so that private companies can charge a little bit and have economic incentive to improve the whole distribution capacity, right? And there's a lot of conflict around this issue, because a lot of people are very much against the privatizing of the water industry. Others are very much in favor of it. But in between that, where my mother-in-law lives, it's a small community on the outside of San Salvador. And the community came together about 7 years ago. And every year in the months of March and April, the community would be left without water just because of the dry season and the lack of capacity for the state to have a decent water system. And what they did is they found some financing from an NGO to create a pretty well-organized water captation system. So kind of like rooftop water. Everybody, the funding that they received was that everybody could change the roof. So they changed the roof from whatever they used to have to metal tin roofs. They all had this canal systems through gutters and things like that. And they built these massive cisterns in the communities where all of the water during the rain system would be stored. So every year since that program started, about 7 years ago, when the dry season comes in the month of March and April, while many other communities around San Salvador are left without water, the community where my mother-in-law lives always has their own water, because it's a resource that is collectively governed, right? So when they're left without water, when the public water no longer turns on, they just turn off that switch, and they have a series of pumps and things like that in these cisterns that delivers water to the rest of the community. But the community understands that water is limited. So during those worst dry months, they have very strict rules about how much water can be used. People are not allowed to, for example, wash their cars because they know that is not used. They're not allowed to water their plants as much as they can, because the idea is that this is a resource that's shared. And as soon as that water that we've collected in those cisterns is gone, we're going to be left without anything else, right? And this is an example of how development organizations can help communities understand the value of the commons, and understand that this is an opportunity to address all sorts of different problems. And like I said at the beginning, where there's a management of the commons, whatever the resource might be, there's also a sense of greater kind of community cohesion, right? So in this community where my mother-in-law lives, the community comes together. They understand that this is a source of, that this is important. And, that there's a water kind of like governing board. In the governing board, during the rainy season, when water isn't an issue, they come together and they organize other activities. So the idea of like managing this crisis where they didn't have water has led to all of the different opportunities for the community to come together, to find ways to participate together, and to manage their livelihoods as best as they can, right? So the ideal, what is the ideal? I would say in an ideal world or a society, communities should be able to come together to take control of their territories, of their geographies, their resources that support their livelihoods, because that makes sense, right? When we can supply our needs as closely geographically as possible, that's generally the best idea. So the practice of community or managing the commons, collectively agreeing on norms and standards, of who can and who cannot use a resource in what ways. This creates a positive feedback loop where, when we have this commons management, it strengthens organization. It strengthens the sense of community, of autonomy, of unity. It's helpful, right? It's helpful because people get to know one another. Once again, it creates a sense of community that is, like I said at the beginning, has been lost, especially in the recent decades when we've kind of succumbed to this idea that it's either the state or the individual. It's either the state or the market, right? So yeah, the reality is that many communities around the world have abandoned collective common land management practices. The idea of the commons has been abandoned. Nonprofit organizations, non-government organizations, aid organizations should consider different ways and projects and strategies to encourage and motivate communities to recreate the sense of commonality through different types of development projects in community spaces. There is no inventory of what is and what is not a common good. Like we said, the commons can be any resource, whether not just natural resources, but also created resources like knowledge, like the Wikipedia. But any resource where communities come together and decide that a resource should be collectively governed for the common good. So there's infinite amounts of possibilities to use this idea of the management of the commons for the overall good of the community. And I think that's an opportunity that development organizations have abandoned, or that certainly do not do enough of, right? And like I said, I think that when the management of the commons occurs, it is a great way not only to foster a sense of community, but also to respond to the tragedy of the commons, right? A lot of people talk about like global warming is an example of the tragedy of the commons. And maybe we can't come up with, agreed upon rules that every nation is going to follow, but we can come upon, smaller communities can agree to rules about how to limit, their carbon emissions in a way that is beneficial to everyone in the community. It's just an example. So it's 8:40. It's 10:45 your time, 8:45 my time. I was told I had an hour, so that's about 45 minutes. I am going to shut up now, and if anybody wants to interrupt me, contradict me, ask questions, feel free.
All right, Tobias Roberts, thank you so much for this presentation. We don't have any questions yet, but if I would like to ask some questions, and everybody just jump in as you feel free to ask questions or make comments. So really what we're talking about here is community management of resources, correct? Now, if we go to places like Nigeria, where you have a lot of oil for decades, but the people still there's still like large pockets of underdeveloped infrastructure, poverty, things like that. What happened? Why was all of that oil privately privatized? And how come it wasn't changed? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say, obviously, the exploitation of oil was an enormous economic opportunity. I don't know what, specifically in the case of Nigeria, who does it, but I would imagine that there was an enormous amount of greed from the multinational oil corporations wanting it for themselves. There was probably also government policies saying that, this is a great way to generate income as a company, or as a country. And so, the idea of using these resources for the country, oftentimes being exploited just by elites, government elites, and things like that. Also, I would say that things like oil extraction and refinery is pretty technical. In most communities probably didn't have the idea of how can I do this in a way where I can then enter into the global market. At the same time, there probably is different ways that communities could have taken advantage of this resource and say, this is on our territory. It's our ancestral territory. A lot of indigenous peoples, there's all these different international laws talking about how communities can manage the resources that are on their landscapes. So for example, I know in Canada, where a lot of First Nations communities exist, there's interesting agreements between massive mining companies who are mining, for example, gold or diamonds or perhaps other types of fossil fuels. And to be able to do that, they have to enter into agreements and contracts with the community regarding who is going to be in charge of these resources, how much money is going to be reinvested in the community, what types of economic benefits is the community going to receive. And so so if the community doesn't have necessarily the way to the means, the economic means, the technological means to exploit a certain resource, one, they should have the ability to say yes or no, whether we want that or don't want that. And if we do, if we are going to have either the government come in and do that for us or a private corporation come in, there has to be a dialogue process where we can say, we're going to allow you access to these resources, but it's going to be something that we're going to get something back from it, right? And so in the case of Nigeria, I don't know if that's happened. I'm not an expert on Africa, but there are interesting examples of that around the world where communities say this is a resource that belongs to us. We're either going to not exploit it because of some of the environmental problems that might ensue, or we're going to do it in a responsible way by entering into agreements with private companies, with governments, et cetera, right? So that would be my 2 cents there.
Yeah, we have a recent graduate who is his work is actually creating proper contracts between the oil companies in Nigeria and the communities, so that when that money comes down in for developing communities, the contracts are properly written and there's accountability to make sure that money is used for the projects. Because as he puts it, the money comes in from the oil companies and somehow ends up in pockets of people in the government. And so it's like the national resource of oil is creating income, but it's not filtering down to the community level, basically.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, I guess we could say if we went back to the famous example of the tragedy of the commons, a lot of people say, okay, what are the examples? What are the alternatives? And one alternative might be, okay, the government's going to come in and it's going to take over all the cows, and it's going to say, we're going to determine who gets to have the cows, how many cows can be on the pasture, and we're going to be the ones that micromanage, and you can imagine the bureaucracy behind that, right? But probably what happens there is that the government is going to get a payback from some local landowner to say, yeah, I'll give you half of my profits if you allow me to have a few more cows than my neighbor on that pasture land. And so, have all of the corruption that's involved in that. The other alternative might be to say, well, no, let's just let everybody have their cows on the pasture, every individual. But generally what happens with private property, when it's exclusively private property, is it tends to concentrate. One family might be a little bit wealthier and might purchase all of the cattle from the rest of the family, so that eventually it turns into a privatized complete pasture, while the rest of the communities are essentially, the rest of the families in the community are left without everything, without anything. And so I think the commons is the idea is that, look, resources are given to us. It's a gift from nature. None of us makes the grass grow. None of us has put the oil in the ground. None of us has allowed these massive forests to be grown. We can improve these resources through our labor, but the resource itself is something that's collective to all of us. And so because it's something that's shared, the benefits need to be shared, and there needs to be these agreements. There needs to be opportunities for communities to dialogue, whether amongst themselves, whether with governments, whether with big corporations who want to come in, to make sure that there is I would say benefits that are appreciated by everyone in the community.
Now, you brought up a good point that sometimes the knowledge of the technology that needs to be used is not within the community. So they need to outsource basically to other countries or corporations. What kind of agreement would you suggest for that type of relationship?
Yeah, I mean, that's always tricky, right? That's always tricky because I would say, first of all, one thing that is important to mention from the outset is that I think communities should have the right to say no to any type of project, and that sometimes is not a debating point. So where I lived in Guatemala, I mentioned that there was a lot of interest from international corporations and the Guatemalan government to exploit the hydrological resources, to create essentially hydroelectric dams. And the idea was that, look, we need to shift to a more renewable energy grid. The Guatemalan government had all of these ideas about it. We don't want to burn coal anymore to produce energy for the country. You guys have these great rivers. And so there's, there was these interesting dialogue places. But one thing that was never on the table was that the big transnational corporations and the Guatemalan government would never accept, the community saying no from the beginning. So I think there needs to be a place to recognize that if a community does not want, if they don't see any benefit in that, if that any sort of big development project does not fit with their ideals, with their traditional land governance practices, there needs to be an ability to say no. If they do say yes, and they often do, because it's not that they're closed off to everything. I think there needs to be a true space of dialogue where they can say, look, we want some economic benefit from this. We have growing communities of young people. We don't necessarily want to abandon our traditional ways of life or whatever it might be, but we do want, we do want to perhaps enter into some sort of modernity if that's what they choose. And so in some senses, maybe negotiating, revenue sharing, negotiating job creation. So, if you're going to bring in a fossil fuel company to mine oil or whatever it might be, how many of those jobs are going to be available for local people as opposed to people being brought in from the outside? I think the community needs to be able to negotiate on a fair basis so that they feel that they're not just having their resource be exploited or taken from them, but that in the sense that they are going to be receiving some sort of benefit, right?
Okay, another question I would have is looking at cooperatives, because cooperatives bring the community together, people in the community into the same organization to manage something. What are your thoughts about cooperatives? Do they work? Is there a problem with them? How do you make them work? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm a big proponent of cooperatives. I think I mentioned at the beginning, we have a little ecotourism cooperative with our neighbors, where we manage the resource of tourism as collectively as possible, right? And the idea with our cooperative, what we feel is that people come to where we live because we have these beautiful mountains, because it's a cool part of the country. It's pleasantly cool. And that's not anything that I've done, right? I haven't created these beautiful mountains. I haven't created this great climate. So the tourism that comes in, it should be available to everyone. So the people who participate in a cooperative have this idea that let's cooperate together. Let's create opportunities of tourism where the opportunities are equally shared, right? It's not just whoever builds the nicest hotel, captures the most tourists or whatever it might be. And I would say cooperatives are difficult because it requires creating rules. It requires creating shared norms, and that's not easy. There's a lot of times there's going to be debates. There's going to be people who are not in agreement with certain things. But at the very least, it creates these spaces where you have to talk, right? You have to talk about how you're going to work together for whatever it might be, whatever type of cooperative you're trying to create, right? And I think those spaces of debate are extremely important in community development, in the management of resources, because it allows more voices to be heard. Generally, I think what happens, when without a cooperative model or the management of the commons model, is that many people's voices, get lost. Those who do not have wealth, those who do not have resources, those who live in hidden geographical areas, are generally ignored. And with a commons management model, with cooperatives, you at least create a space where more and more people can have their voices heard and participate in the structure. So if we're talking about the commons as a place for true community participation, it entails just that. More people can have a space to talk, right, and to share their opinions and to have their voice heard. And I think that's always valuable, right, despite the difficulties that that it includes.
Okay, another question would be that the United Nations has these goals for a sustainable development. So that key word is sustainable. So when, multinational comes in, exploits the resource, it's not sustainable in long term for the country. So can you just speak to this idea of sustainability and what it means and the importance of it?
Yeah, no, sustainability is perhaps the word that's used by everyone. It's kind of, I would say, probably one of the most overused and misunderstood words. That I think most companies understand that consumers want to limit their environmental impact. So anything that's, you can claim anything sustainable. It's an example of, a lot of times what we call greenwashing. Companies or governments or individuals even, wanting to say, I'm doing good for the environment, even though, whatever changes they're doing are make-up,
Well,
or
then what is your vision for sustainability? How would you see it?
yeah. So I mean, yeah, what is sustainable? I think, if we look at sustainability, it has to be, something that is continuable, right? And my vision of sustainability is generally the best people to teach us about sustainability are indigenous cultures that still exist around the world. Because, whereas one company might say that we've been sustainably doing business in a certain part of the world for 10 years, indigenous cultures can say we have sustainably lived in a certain place for thousands and thousands of years, right? So I think if you look at just on a time basis, I think we need to start looking to a lot of these rural, agrarian, indigenous communities who have developed practices that allow them to live decent lives in a certain place without destroying the ecological capacity of that place, right? And I guess that would probably be a good definition of sustainability, right? The ability to maintain the ecological equilibrium, maintain the resource base, while at the same time creating a lifestyle that is dignified for the people who live there, the people who are actually there, in a way that you're not just looking at your sustainable income returns for the next 5 years, right? You're taking a much longer look at things. And I would say the people who can teach us about that are those who generally don't have their voices heard, right? Indigenous peoples, farmers, small scale agrarian communities. And I would say it would be fantastic, right? If the United Nations or big corporations could look at these communities and say, let's try and learn from them. Let's try and take our perspective of sustainability, not necessarily mimic that 100%, perhaps take some of those values, some of those ethics, and incorporated that into our business practice, into our policies, for example, from a governmental perspective, right? Whatever it might be.
Okay, well, the hour is up. I want to ask you, what would you, to come back and talk, what topic would you talk about next time? Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was actually going to say I have an upcoming class. I'm not sure with which students, but it's on the subject of. Let me bring it up here. Okay, it's on the subject of agroecology and small farming, and why that necessarily. I would say because one of the things that I think is possible is that we might not be able to, for example, create an airplane or manage internet systems with community-based commons management. You might need bigger companies. You might need international organizations to regulate that. You might need private corporations, but you don't need that to grow your own food. In pretty much every area of the world, every ecosystem, every region, people can produce healthy food in a way that protects the local ecosystem, that restores ecological balance. And I think that that's an opportunity that is being overlooked. I think, unfortunately, our global food system is moving ever farther away from places where local production can be met for local communities in a way that is healthy. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with a group of AIU students sometime in the future about looking at, look, how can we recreate local food sheds is the word that's used, not like watersheds, but places where food can be grown locally, healthy food, in a way that protects the local ecosystem.
Okay. Amazing. Excellent information, excellent topic. So important for the long-term future of the world is creating community development to manage these resources so that there's not this tragedy of the commons. It can be avoided. So thank you so much, Tobias Roberts. I don't think, Oscar says this topic has really helped me, but how to have access to the presentation? Are you able to upload your presentation into chat?
Yeah, I think I can do that real quick.
Okay, so there's going to be a link to download the presentation in chat. And you can use the presentation in your bibliography if you write an assignment on this. And really, everybody should write an assignment on how to use resources in their community. Everybody should have an awareness of the resources in their community and how they're being used. How water, healthcare, infrastructure, streets, security, police. What services and products and resources are people sharing that they can draw from as a community? So everybody should write an assignment about your community, the resources available to your community, and how they're being managed, and who's benefiting from those resources, and how are they benefiting? These are all questions to look at your own community and answer. Tobias Roberts, do you want to add any more?
No, I'll just say thank you to everyone. I just uploaded it's taking a little time. It's kind of a heavy attachment, but it'll be here in the chat. I'll stay online until it's uploaded. But yeah, thank you again for the opportunity to present, and I wish you all the best.
And did you upload it to everyone? Sometimes the Zoom tricks us into just sending messages to one person.
Yeah, it says you to everyone, so I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It's still doing.
Yeah, I don't see it yet.
It'll be up there in a second. I think it's a little bit of a heavy one. I'll also send it to Claire, on where I've been talking with her, so she can share that as well.
Okay, since we have maybe a minute left, it's this idea of sustainability. I think if you go to Northern Africa, like Libya and places like that, there's been oil, and their populations have grown a lot. And the oil has kind of allowed them to import food for that growing population. But as we look into the future, and globalization is kind of deglobalizing right now, and so in a sense, their industry of oil is going to be diminishing through time. And they're not going to have the agricultural base to support that larger population now that was built upon the oil profits. So I think what I'm trying to say here is that the next stage in all of this is agricultural community development, like you're putting forth, right? That as time goes by, community agricultural systems is going to be super important. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I would say fossil fuels have been kind of this blip in human history. We happened upon them. It was great while it lasted, but they don't last. I mean, it is an unrenewable resource, and there's all these debates about peak oil, when it's gonna hit its zenith and start down. But what we do know is there is not an unlimited supply of that stuff, and when it's gone, it's going to cause huge problems. And it's not just fossil fuels. A lot of times some people say that the alternative is, we just got to switch to renewable energies, but all of that stuff also requires inputs, and any type of resource use where we're focused on unlimited demand is going to come up to problems, right? And one of the things about farming, about localized economic systems, whether it be anything, whether it be local mines, local farming, whatever, is that you can manage those resources in a circular manner, right? If you do farming well, the soil doesn't necessarily deplete. You can have the harvest that you have this year can be just as good next year. In 100 years, 1,000 years from now, you can continue that. So that there again, there's an example of sustainability, right? Extracting oil, no matter how you try to do it as well as possible, is always going to come up to the fact that it's not going to last forever, right? So I see that my presentation just uploaded, so feel free to access that here in the chat.
Yes, you'll see a link to Rescuing the Commons in chat. You can just click on it and it'll start to download. And so Tobias Roberts, if you want to go, you are free to go, but I'll have to say probably a little bit just so people have time to download.
Okay. Well, again, thank you all very much, and best of luck in your studies, and I look forward to participating with AIU sometime in the future.
Okay, everybody, you can now unmute your microphones to say thank you and bye to Tobias Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Tobias.
Thank you. Best of luck.
It's been a good lesson.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Tobias.
Take care. Nice to meet you all.
Everybody have a nice weekend.
All right. Nice to meet you, Dr. Lambert. Thank you.
And you too.
Just
Tobias
to
Roberts.
download the.
So did everybody get to download the presentation?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, you were able to
Yeah,
download. I
we
downloaded mine.
downloaded.
Yeah, so think about a good assignment where you're looking at resources in your community, how they're being used, who is profiting from those resources, and if there's something that can be improved in how those resources are being used. Yeah, like maybe improve the environment or maybe use the profits of those resources to help schools or healthcare, to develop the community. This is community development so that your community becomes stronger. And as your community becomes stronger, there's going to be more jobs. The youth are going to be able to find jobs when they come out of school. And that's really important because when the youth come out of high school or out of school and they don't have a job, they end up causing trouble a lot of times and finding trouble for themselves. So community development is really important to get everybody involved in projects working. So that even if the youth come out of school, at least maybe there's a community farm for them to work on, to make some money, develop some skills, work on the machinery, grow some food, bring it to market, sell it in the market. So everybody's working. This is community development and using the resources to make sure everybody has an opportunity. Write an assignment about this so that you analyze your own community. Who's being left out? Who's not finding opportunity? How can they be brought in to this community development? And what can be done? Do you need food? Do you need education? Do you need to build more buildings? Think about what your community needs and how the resources can support that. Okay, we have a question from Gertrude. You can unmute your microphone.
Thank you, Dr. Lambert. Hello, Doc.
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead, Gertrude.
Yes, Doc, I have just one issue concerning, maybe I can direct it to you or maybe to another person, concerning the presentations that have been going on live. And I've not been accessing those from this end, Zambia, Lusaka. So I don't know what to do. Of course, for today, I don't know what I've downloaded, whether it's from the chat, though, whether it's an assignment or the presentation itself, because I've not checked yet. Thank you, Doc.
So are you looking to find past live sessions, live classes?
So far, Doc, I've attended about, this should be my 10th live session.
Yes.
And I've never had access to any of this in the chat, when I go to my portal.
I put up let me see if I can put this up here again. Here. I'm going to put up a link to a YouTube channel. This is the AIU YouTube channel. If you click on that link, you'll see a list of videos that AIU has posted to YouTube, and you'll see those past, you'll see all of the past live sessions. And there's a lot of them.
I'm not getting it. So where can I click?
Do you see? I just posted it
link?
the AIU YouTube channel, and there's a little link there for youtube.com. Do you see that?
Is it in the chat, Doc?
Yes, it is in the chat.
Yes.
Does everybody see the chat for the YouTube channel?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
No,
So
I think
you should now be able to receive certificates for your participation. Are you receiving certificates for your participation in these live sessions?
No,
Neither, no, Doc.
no. I've
Do you
never
see-
received any.
Do you see a
We
link?
never receive anything.
Do you
No.
see, You should be, do you see it in an email? Do you see it on your student platform where a link that you can click and you'll be able to download a certificate?
No,
No.
No, nothing.
no.
Check
Nothing.
with your tutor. Your tutor probably knows. Everybody write to your tutor and ask your tutor how you can do that.
Okay.
So your tutor probably has the most up-to-date information on that.
Okay, thank you.
All
And
right,
you all
Joe,
have-
thank you.
You all have the assignment template. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mojisola? Is that you?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, I thought we could get these live recordings on our portals, but they are not available on our student portals, sir. They're not there.
Let me go ahead and check real fast to see if I can see what is available right now on your student portals. Okay, let me check. So I'm going to go into just a random student portal, and there's a link on the left that says AIU live classes rooms. I'm going to click on there, and they should, I see live sessions going back to, there's 119 of them. And it looks like the one we just did, we are preparing to post this video. It's more than 3 days after date recorded. Please ask. Okay, let me check another one. I'm going to go back in time. Check. We are preparing to post this. Okay, so I'm seeing.
I can see it.
Okay, I can see that they're going back. The ones in March, the ones at the end of March have been posted. The ones at the beginning of April have been posted. Let me do one from April 20th. April 20th, that's posted. Let me come back to May the 2nd.
Okay, I can see it now.
Okay, from May the 2nd, let me try April 28th. No. So it looks like financial planning. Okay, so it looks like around April 26th, 28th. They've been uploaded until April 27th, but since April 27th, they have not been uploaded.
Mm.
So you can go to the YouTube channel. I would suggest going to the YouTube channel to see the most recent ones.
Okay, so my second question, the live classes. So are we supposed to write thesis on it, and it forms some sort of credits to our programs? Dr. Lambert, please.
So I'm trying to understand your question.
Okay, my question is, okay, so all these live classes, the assignment templates, so you encourage us to go on and write something on the assignment template. And I'm asking, do they form credit or some sort of scores recorded in our favor in our programs, or we should write them for publishing?
Well, you want to submit the essays for course credits.
Yes, I'm asking that when we use the assignment template to write things on the live classes, does it form some sort of, does it attract credit or scores?
Yeah, I'm going to put into chat right now. Will you see this a little link there that says add new courses? So if you write an assignment on rescuing the commons like today,
Yes.
or
Yes.
cost accounting, or some new course that's not already in your curriculum on your page, you can add the new course, and that guide will show you how to add the course.
Okay.
And that guide will also show you how to submit the assignment for that new course.
Okay. 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 Thank you, sir.
I think that's all you need to do. Once you create an assignment, you just, and it's for a course you don't already have in your curriculum, just add the course. It shows you how to do that. And then just once it's added, you'll be able to click a link to submit.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to just upload your file, submit your assignment.
Okay. Thank you.
Which number 9? Section.
No.
Which section?
Any more questions?
Room 9. Room 9.
Just remember, everybody, that how many of you are using the Chat GTP on your student portal? Raise your hand if you're using the Chat.
I've tried to use it, but it says to me my token is 0.
Huh.
I can use.
I tried to use it and it says I don't have available tokens. And I don't know what that meant. So my thought is to talk to my tutor to ask questions about it.
Okay, so I'm looking at your program right now. I'm going to log into your account.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to open up. Okay, yeah, you're going to need to. I think in your case, it's just a matter of making a payment to reactivate.
I already did, sir. I already did.
Okay, then they need to process it so you can get working. That's what they need
Yes,
to do.
sir. Also mine.
But I'm not able to. I'm not able to see any more. I'm because because the page is kind of closed down right now. I can't see how many tokens you have.
So in my case, my tutor is not connected me. So what I can do in that?
Let's see who's talking. Is that Lumbai?
This is Mike Bior.
Ah, Mike Bior.
Yeah, my tutor is not connected to me at all, sir.
Let me check your account.
Okay.
I'm going to check your.
It's political science.
Yes, I see you.
And even the subject, I'm taking it.
Okay, I'm gonna go into Chat GTP, open it up, and you have, looks like you haven't used any of your tokens yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it looks to me like you have a lot of tokens. So when you type in something and then search answer, do you mind me sharing your screen right now? I don't think this will be a problem. Let me check. Let me get back to the Zoom. Share. Okay. So I think, can you see that, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
So over here on the quick menu, there's the Chat GTP.
Chat GTP,
So I click that and then click Chat GTP, and it comes up total tokens remaining 12,500. Total tokens used 0.
Okay.
So if you come in here, I'm not going to type anything, but if you type in here something like how can I learn cost accounting? Search answer. It'll give you an answer and tell you how many tokens you used in asking that question. And so you have direct access into Chat GPT. And so let me check another thing here. I want to put up a link to a video that I found that is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Let me go ahead and find this.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money.
Let's see, where am I going? Okay, so in chat, I'm going to put a link to a video in YouTube. And this is a lady who tells you you can learn anything in Chat GPT. And she'll tell you how to do it. She'll show you how to write in that text box your question to Chat GPT and what you want.
If you don't know what that is, the Pareto principle states that 80%.
Okay, say that again. Who's talking?
I said that I can't see the link that you sent in the chat.
Do you see a YouTube link? It ends with N94S. Do you see that in chat?
No.
Maybe it takes a while for it to reach you. It should be instantaneous. Does anybody else see that link that I just put in
Maybe
the
she
chat?
has to scroll down. She can scroll down and see.
Yes. Yeah, I see it
I
there.
can see the link.
You
Maybe
can just scroll down, maybe.
Emmanuel is saying that you need to scroll down to see it to the very end.
I can see it is equal to 94S.
So she'll start you off. She'll give you these 6 things that you need to do to set up your course. First, you want to start out by doing this Pareto question, where it's going to give you 20% of everything you need to know about a subject. And it's going to give you the core knowledge for any subject. And then from there, you're going to grow, but it's going to give you a focused learning approach to any subject you want to learn. And then it's going to tell you where to find materials. Well, you can find materials in YouTube. You can find materials in the 2 AIU libraries. And then she's also in Chat GPT will also show you other places to find materials to study. And then she's going to go through how to develop your courses. And at the end, she'll tell, she shows you how to use Chat GPT to test your knowledge and help you develop critical thinking about the knowledge. So it's a complete package that works perfectly for the AIU students. So that Chat GPT is like a teacher, a mentor that is there helping you learn and then testing your knowledge. And so the video that she put up is brilliant. And it has almost 1 million views in the past 2 weeks, I think, because I think people found it to just be brilliant. And it is. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's perfect for AIU students. You can go into your student portal and use Chat GPT right there, using those 6 methods to study any course you want, or even political science. And
Dr. Lampert, I can't see it on mine. Mr. Lumbai speaking.
I'm not sharing my screen on that right now, but you don't see the link?
No, I mean, I don't see the GPT. On
Okay, is that Lumbai?
Yes.
Okay, let me go check your. Let me see if it is available on your student portal. So I do see it. I go over on your student portal. You'll see at the very top personal information, then document management, then Chat GPT. If I click on that, you'll get 2 options. You'll see your logs. Logs is what you've already done. And then you go back to your logs and actually, copy and paste that information to your computer. If I click on the just Chat GPT, yeah, you have the total amount of tokens available. You haven't used any yet.
Oh, okay.
Do you see that link for Chat GPT on your student portal?
No, yet. I'm searching for it.
It is there.
Okay, hi. Maybe I missed it.
how do we use this GPT tokens? Because for me, I have almost 12,500.
Yes. Perfect. So in that, I think from what I see, if you ask a good question and get a good answer, I think it uses like 150 tokens. So you should be able to ask maybe 100 questions. You know, that's just an estimate on my part.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to ask like 100 questions for free. So use your questions very carefully so you don't lose questions.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I give you that one video to YouTube. It shows you precisely how to ask your questions to get the most benefit from your answers. Actually the most benefit from your tokens. So that if you say, okay, I want to study political science and I want to study international relations around the petroleum industry. Well, then you use that method that that lady has in that YouTube channel and start out by saying, okay, give me a 20% Pareto focus in political science with a focus on international relations and petroleum relations, something like that. And you'll get a really good, sophisticated answer. So you won't have to keep asking questions and using up your tokens. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So that video is to show you how to ask really good questions so you don't use up a lot of tokens trying to figure out more and more information. So basically from that video, you might be able to ask 6 or 10 questions and get everything you need to know about a certain course.
I got it.
And so with just 10 questions, you've got everything you need to know to study a certain course. And so you could have, if you have 100 questions that you can ask, you'll probably have enough for like 10 courses free. Now, if it takes you 50 questions trying to figure out one course, you've used too many questions. So I'm giving you a way to just focus in precisely on the questions you need to ask to use your tokens better.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Because it really is powerful, and you're gonna be amazed by all the information you all of a sudden have available to you from ChatGPT.
So
and you're gonna be crazy, like all these questions you can ask, but then you're gonna run out of tokens. So
yes, sir. It's mean that using a token, it's asking a question during the lectures.
Say that again. You're using your tokens and it's asking you a question during the lectures.
Is it should I ask a question during the lectures time, during the presentation? That's the way of using the token.
The way you use your token is by asking a question. What does it say in that one? You open up the chat GPT and it says type here, right? And then over on to the side to the right, it says search answer. As soon as you push search answer, you're going to be using tokens. So every time you type in something and then search an answer, it's going to be using tokens. So you want to use as many, you want to have as many questions as possible. So you have to make sure your questions are really good. So you don't have to ask 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 questions. You can get all that into one question. You're going to use less tokens. So kind of prepare yourself on what kind of questions you want to ask ChatGPT, because this is free to you. This is a free resource to you to really help you in your courses. Think about the questions. Think about what you want to know, the questions you want to ask, and then ask complete questions, and then you'll get complete answers and use less tokens. That's basically the strategy.
Dr. Lambert.
Lumbai, is that you?
Yes, it's me. I want to add like anatomy and physiology. So like I'm busy with it already, but then it was under nutrition course. So, but I don't need it in under nutrition. So I want it like itself, like anatomy and physiology itself, not under not under nutrition. Did you get me?
So you want to study anatomy and physiology?
Yes. So I've been already doing that assignment. I'm almost actually done with it. So I want, when I'm going to send it, like when I'm going to submit it, I want to do it under itself, like anatomy and physiology itself, like creating my I want to create like a new course. It's possible so that like you can send me more of like assignments, I mean exams for that.
Well, did you download that guide for add new courses?
Yes, I've downloaded the book. I've got the book you sent me actually, but then I only have one exam, that's one. So I don't know if you may send me another one.
How many chapters are in that book?
It's about 20, I think, no, 15. Yeah. So I'm busy with 3 already.
So
yeah,
what,
I finished with 3.
when you have a book that has like 15 chapters,
yes,
you can say maybe do 1 course per chapter if there's a certain, because each chapter is going to cover a specific topic in that.
Yes.
So you can have 1 course that focuses on 1 chapter subject. So let's say chapter 5 is a chapter that you're really interested in. You'll just do an assignment and a course for chapter 5, researching all of the material in that chapter, and then present the course. So you can have up to 15 courses with that 1 book if you want to research every single chapter in that book. You also have the option of taking 3 chapters and incorporating 3 chapters into 1 assignment. So maybe if you take 3 chapters at a time, then you'd have 5 assignments that you could do from 1 book.
Okay. So another one, so when are we gonna write exams, if they use exam directly or only all those assignments that we're doing?
Say that again?
I said, Doc, there's exams or only those assignments, because some are assignments they're writing exam of this, and maybe in nutrition. So is that the exams that we're doing already, or there's other stuff?
Yeah, we don't have exams for every book or every subject. So you have to create your own assignments.
Okay.
And one thing about an anatomy and physiology book is at the end of the chapters, you may see a list of questions, and you can just answer those questions in your assignment and you're done. Sometimes you'll see multiple choice questions. Sometimes you'll see short answer questions. Sometimes you'll see project questions that you need to develop like a project and then submit it. You choose which questions you want to develop for your assignment, and you're good.
Oh, thank you so much for that clarification.
Sir, my question is, sir, how many students here are studying political science like I do? Or all these students are political science?
There's political science, there's international relations, there's government studies, there's community development.
Yes.
There's a lot of different types of majors around that same topic. Now, Makbior, do you have exams for political science yet?
No, I'm not getting anything, sir. That's what I said. My tutor is not connected me, giving me the structure, how I'm going to do, and what is left for me, what is not for me. I'm just attending the classes, every subject a day.
Just hold on right there. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I'm about to put 3 exams in chat for you. Here we go.
Yes. Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, there we go. I have to actually enter it. Okay, do you see these links for exam number 1, exam number 2, and exam number 3 that I just put into chat?
So yeah, we are here actually.
You can, when you download the exam, on the exam, you'll see a link on the exam to download a book from the AIU library. The book is free. and you can keep it forever.
Asking so many questions.
I hate programming.
And I can also come over here into international relations. And you're going to see, I just put a link to an Excel. You download that Excel, I think there's like 30 or something like 30 exams on that Excel with links. And you just click the link off to the side and you'll get an exam. And you'll have a book for all of these exams. Let me see. These exams cover everything from globalization to social constructivism to gender and international relations, international law, refugees, terrorism, proliferation of weapons, human rights, a lot of issues that are international concerns. So just from that link I just put up for exams for international relations, you're going to find a lot of different topics that you can focus in on for each exam.
Yes, sir, I got, but how can I get them into my email, whatever you put in chat GTP now? So if I log out later, if we finish this thing, I'll miss them. How can I get them back?
You mean the answers from ChatGPT?
Yeah,
I would
whatever you
suggest
see.
when it kicks out an answer for you on your student page, just grab it, select it, copy it, and paste it to a Word document in your computer. So you have everything that ChatGPT says to you, just copy it into a document. So you'll have like a record of everything that it tells you. Does that answer your question? But it should also save the logs. So when you click on ChatGPT in your quick menu, it gives you two options: to go directly to ChatGPT or to look at your logs. And the logs will be the questions that you've asked in the past. So you can either just keep track of your logs or just copy and paste the information to a Word document so you don't lose track of it. Does anybody else need exams for anything? Emmanuel, I can't hear you. Emmanuel, I can't hear you. Do you need exams for a course? So you have resources. You have exams that you can just download from the active learning section. You can find those in your student portal. You have ChatGPT. You have webinars. You have the live sessions. You have 2 AIU libraries. So if you go to student resources, one is the online library. You'll see online library.
No, it's okay. No,
I wonder if I could show that to you.
27, huh? 27 of May.
Yeah, I was actually
Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Where's that noise coming from?
Yeah.
There. Okay, so if you go to your student portal, on the left, you're going to see student resources. So I'm going to go there, click. The 2 libraries are, you'll see online library, that's obvious. That's the EBSCO host that has millions of books. And sometimes you have limited accessibility to those books, where you can only see certain parts of the book. You can't really download them, but you can still study them. You'll see. And there's also additional resources. There's a book icon that says additional resources. You click on there and it'll open up another library at AIU. that has mostly textbooks. So using the two libraries, the online library and additional resources, using those two libraries, you have a lot of reading material to do your courses. There's books on economics, there's books on public health, there's books on governments, there's books on ethics, there's books on everything.
Dr. Lambert, okay, may I ask you this question here?
Yes.
I'm doing healthcare administration. Okay, I've chosen some subjects already, but what is the main course, like the main subject that I can do that's gonna give me the input, like the best of everything?
Well, healthcare administration, to me, one of the most important books is Healthcare Economics. Have you seen that book?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, let me see if I can bring that up. And I can put the link down in.
Then I'll grab it from there.
Let me see if I can find this. Healthcare economics. Health economics. Let me check this out. Make sure it's the right book before I give you the link. Yes. Yeah, this is a brilliant book. Lots of chapters. You can study one chapter at a time. And so that will take you directly into the additional resources library. And you can just download the book for free. And it talks about
exams.
It's really talking about the economics of healthcare and how to make it more efficient.
Dr. Lambert, there's also the exams over the in there already, or it's not.
Are you saying, are there any exams for healthcare management? Is that?
No, I mean, like in this link, everything is inside already. Like exams or in assignments in net.
Well,
on the link.
I'm going to put up another link here so you can see all of the books on healthcare.
Okay.
So that'll give you there's health services management statistics, essential primary care in healthcare, data-driven healthcare, healthcare management, pervasive healthcare computing, international scope of compassionate healthcare. All these books are in there. Public healthcare in Africa, data-driven, let's see, observational studies in healthcare, healthcare analytics, management in healthcare, healthcare financial management, management accounting for healthcare organizations. So you're going to find all of the books you need right there. Now, if I open up the healthcare economics book, and I'm just going to go out to page 222, you'll see this is chapter, I don't see the chapter name. Let me see, I'm looking at the chapter at the end of chapter 7. There are review questions and problems, and I see a total of 16 review questions that you can just use those 16 or at least 10, if not 15 questions for an assignment. So you read the chapter and you'll answer questions at the end of that chapter where it says review questions and problems. So you already have your questions already set. You read the chapter and there's questions that will test you right there at the end of the chapter.
That's wonderful. So I was looking for it a long time ago.
You know, it's just a matter of contacting us to make sure we get you the information you need.
Yo, oh man, that's wonderful.
Now you have like 12 books for free and all of your questions are there. Now you can study really fast. And that's the purpose of AIU. Get you your study material and let you do your assignments quickly. But you're doing it efficiently. It's quickly because you now control your time. You have the book, you can study in your own time. If you want to stay up all night and study straight for 3 days without sleeping, That's, you have that option. And then writing an assignment on the 4th day, you can complete a course in 4 days if you don't want to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Dr.
And
Lambert?
so you can do these, you now control your learning. Is that
Thank
Peter?
you
Who's
so much.
talking?
This
And
is,
that's why I want
Moji.
long
This is
time ago.
Moji.
Doc,
This is
Doc,
Moji.
hello?
Okay, so when I was running my PhD program, I had a bit of a challenge with getting resources, books from the online library. So I had to go into other universities' online libraries to get resources. So I'm currently running my postdoctorate now. And I'm just looking, it looks to me as if you are performing magic here, that you're just bringing out all the books. But it was really difficult for me to bring those books out. I'm just thinking, I don't know whether it's going to be easy with my postdoctorate now.
Now, I just put into chat another link to libgen.rs. It's Library Genesis. This is an online library that I always find books on here. You'll find conference reports. What do you study?
Industrial and organization psychology and business development.
Okay, let's bring that down. Let's say industrial psychology.
Yes, and business development.
Yeah, if you use too many words, it's not going to give you many books.
Okay, industrial psychology. Okay, industrial psychology.
So it's like industrial psychology. Okay, hold on a second here. Let me.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm going to give you a link here, so you can see what this looks like. See that link I just put into?
Yes, I saw it.
You just click on that link, and I think it's going to show you how many books.
Yes, I clicked on it. Wow.
There's 75 books.
These are big books. Thank you.
Yeah, and you just, to download, you just click on the title of a book.
Okay.
And it'll take you to another page. I'm looking at the Encyclopedia of Industrial and Organizational Psychology. You see that?
Wow, this is huge.
And if you click on the image of the book, it'll take you to another page. And then up above, you'll have to choose Cloudflare, IPFS, Inata, or Local Gateway. One of those gateways, and then it'll just download directly to your computer.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. Thank you.
I mean, that book is 1,200 pages.
Thank you.
1,200.
Wow.
No, that's even better.
It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and books there are free. You just download them and it's yours.
This is great.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
So you have the AIU online EBSCO host library, the additional resources library, you have the Genesis library, you have YouTube, you have Chat GPT.
I'm made.
You are set. You have your assignment template.
Made. Ready to run.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Okay, I see Peter has to leave. Take good care, Peter. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, no, just one question, Doc, before we leave. Hello, Doc.
I'm here. Gertrude, do you have a question?
Yes, Doc. I'm getting interested in what is happening here. In my country, we are just rolling out early childhood education, and specifically, of course, we are done with the early childhood education, and we are now looking at specific like early childhood mathematics education. So following the conversation that has been going on here, I'm getting interested if at all we have links also leading to early childhood mathematics education. Like
can you write into chat exactly the topic that you are researching?
All right, Doc, let me write here.
I think you're just saying early childhood education, right?
Early childhood mathematics.
Okay. I'm going to go to that Genesis library and type in, I'm not going to say early, I'm just going to say childhood mathematics.
Yes.
I'm just going to say childhood mathematics. Keep the search simple. I'm not going to say education yet.
Okay.
It's going to bring back, oh, I don't see how many books are here. 18 books.
Wow.
For childhood mathematics. Let me come back here and put the link in chat. So there's a link to childhood mathematics. So if I said like childhood mathematics education, it wouldn't have given me all of those books. So I try and just limit it down to childhood mathematics, and then it will include, I see a book on elementary mathematics. I see a book on elementary teachers, early childhood mathematics, 3rd edition. Like that doesn't say education in it. So you wouldn't have seen that book if you said childhood mathematics education. You wouldn't have seen this one book.
Mm-hmm.
How big is this book? Do you want, here, hold on a second. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can actually upload this book into the chat here. So I'm right now I'm downloading a book from that Genesis library. I'm letting it download. Now I'm going to save it to my computer.
Genesis library.
Let's save it. Now I'm going to see if I can upload it into chat. So you have direct access to the, so you actually click on this link that I'm about to put into chat. And the book itself, oh, hold on a second. No, that's not what I want to do. I'm putting up the link again. I need to put up the actual file of the book. Here we go. So I'm going to see if I can upload this book directly to, yeah, it's going to work. So you're going to see a book on early childhood mathematics coming. It's uploading right now into chat. And this is a book I just downloaded from that Genesis library. And it's free. You know, you just go there and download these books. Many of the books are not current books. They're books that are like older versions, but they're still free and they're still good.
Okay.
And if you want the newer version of the book, you'll probably have to pay for it. But actually some new books appear in that library too.
Okay.
Even some books that haven't even been published yet. So yeah, I found really, really good books in that library. So, and if we go to YouTube, and I do a search on childhood, in YouTube, you can be a little more loose with your search, childhood mathematics education. So you can be a little bit more specific in YouTube because there's just so much available in YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put another link into chat. So I'm showing you how to find study material. So there, I just put a link into chat where you can go to YouTube for childhood mathematics education. And you'll see a lot of videos to show you how it's being practiced in the classroom. You can actually go up to the filters in YouTube and choose just playlists. Okay, so now I just did that. So now I'm going to go down back to us here in the Zoom, and I put up a new link. This new link is going to show you all the early childhood mathematics education playlists. So these are playlists that if you click on one, you'll see a list of specific videos dedicated to childhood mathematics. Some of them are classes, some of them are just methods and techniques. There's a whole variety of different people presenting information on this. There's just so much information available in YouTube. So remember that when you search for something on YouTube, there's certain filters. You can there's playlist. You can also filter for videos over 20 minutes.
Okay.
If you filter for videos over 20 minutes, there's a lot of times you're going to see classes, documentaries, in-depth studies about something. You might even see like a Zoom conference that people recorded and then put up into YouTube.
Okay. Okay.
You're going to see a lot. So if you really want to get in depth into something, you can go for a video over 20 minutes. If you want to see maybe little examples of how to apply it in the classroom, then you'll see videos under 20 minutes. Like I see some lecture series, I see some interviews, I see some conferences, I see inaugural lectures.
Dr. Lambert.
So many videos. Yes.
Okay, sir. So if I go on YouTube now, for example, if I'm looking for industrial psychology conferences, do I need to specify videos over 20 minutes?
You can. You can specify, give me the videos over 20 minutes.
Okay.
You can look at them all, come back and say, now give me all the videos under 20 minutes. Look at them all, and then say, well, just show me the playlists.
Okay.
And you can say, what country are you in?
Nigeria.
Just let me try this. Childhood Mathematics Education, Nigeria.
Whoa.
See what we get. There we go. They're coming up. Right there. Young lady absolutely kills it in Nigerian maths competition. So Nigerian children learn mathematics easily. So yeah, you have videos specifically for Nigeria too. So it gives you more options. And if you don't see videos about childhood education for mathematics in Nigeria, if you don't see many, you can actually create videos and earn income from your videos on YouTube.
Okay.
So if you want to study political science of Nigeria, and there's a certain area of political science of Nigeria, and you don't see many videos about that on YouTube, you go ahead and create those videos. Use ChatGPT to say, okay, ChatGPT, give me the script for a 10-minute video about Nigerian international relationships about such and such subject.
Wow.
And then ChatGPT will actually write you out the script.
Yeah.
You just read that script in your video and you're creating videos for and you're creating knowledge for other people to build upon.
Yeah.
You have all of the tools you need to just explode your careers.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so when people tell you, oh, artificial intelligence is going to take away jobs, no, it's creating work. It's creating value. It's creating a lot of value that needs to be filled efficiently. And it just takes everybody here, grab the knowledge, let that ChatGPT show you what to say in a video. You create the video, you upload it to YouTube. The next thing you know is you say, okay, I want to monetize this video. So every time somebody visits your video, you can earn money.
Hmm.
So these are skills that you have all of the tools now. You have the books, you have the GPT to help you develop a script. Once you get that script, you can edit it to certain things you want to say. Maybe there's certain things you want to say about your own experience, things you've seen. You just add that into the script. And pretty soon you have a 10-minute video ready to go. And so somebody else comes in and says, early childhood education mathematics in Nigeria. And all of a sudden, all of your videos start popping up at the front because you have more videos than everybody else. And so people start looking at your videos and looking what you're doing, and you start making money, and they start learning, and children start learning mathematics better. It's a good thing. It's all good.
This is so nice. So
Yeah,
nice.
all of the tools you need are you have them now. The addition of ChatGPT, I keep saying it wrong. The addition of that, I think within the last 2 months, this is, you know how the AAU system went down for like a month? Yeah, it was these updates that we were trying to do, like adding ChatGPT and some other things. So now we have the updates. Now you have the information that you need. Now you are ready to go.
So that one question, one last one for me. So like now I got the tools now, like now I got it. So I should have been finishing in December for my program. So as now I got it right now here. If I can prolong it, or I can, it can be a little bit longer, or what must I do now?
You know, you control your time. You control your time. If you see all of a sudden you have all these tools you can develop with artificial intelligence and libraries, and you start putting together these YouTube videos, and you really start developing your professional development.
Yes.
You may want more time, or you may think, I'm ready. I have everything I need right now. I want to graduate as fast as I can to get moving on my new career. Or you can say, I'm going to take out the time to really study these things. You control your time to develop your career.
Okay.
And so remember, we always go back to this. The key thing that you need to do is professional development, developing your career. And just remember, AIU and your educational development is just a part of your professional development. There are other parts. There are other parts besides education, networking in your community, developing the tools to publish your work through social media, YouTube videos, your own personal blog. These are other parts of your professional development. You have your educational development that feeds into what you publish in your professional development. Your educational development will feed into your networking. So if you do a research project and you're out surveying and doing questionnaires, you're going to meet a lot of people. And you want to be able to meet people that are important to your career in the future. So think about where you might want to work. Go interview those people for your research project. They get to know you, they begin to trust your research project, and they begin to have pride in you. And when you need a job in the future, you might be able to go back to them and say, okay, I graduated. Or they might say to you, when do you graduate? Let us know, because we might have a job for you, right?
Yeah.
So as you're doing your educational development, you're also networking your professional development. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so very much for that.
Yeah, you're opening up the world. You're opening up your world so that you can create the life that really expresses who you are.
Yeah.
But you're going to need the tools. You're going to need time to develop those tools and to develop your expression. Like you can have a blog, but everybody has to like make the blog their own. What sort of pictures do you want? Colors? What sort of ideas do you want to present? Even the font. What kind of font do you want to present? Do you want it to look scientific? Do you want it to look artistic? Do you want it to look professional? Do you want it to look educational? You're designing everything from you. And sometimes, you know, you think, oh my God, I have to go blog, YouTube videos, I have to study and read. I don't know if I can do this all. Then find somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
In your family, a friend, and say, what do you think? What can I do here? Oh yeah, I know, I have a friend who works on developing web pages and blogs. Maybe that friend could come in and just help you set this up and show you how to set it up. Do it. Network, get other people involved in your projects. And then that person will know about what you're doing, and then they'll talk to somebody else, and then that person will talk to somebody else, and pretty soon you have a phone call. I heard from somebody that you're working on a project. What are you doing? You know, yeah, my name is such and such. You don't know me. It's just part of networking, getting to know people. So think about the projects and then get people involved in your projects.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like, let's say you're doing mathematics for early childhood education in Nigeria, and you develop a new system. And now you want to write a book. And that book is going to give exercises, lessons, and everything you need to teach mathematics. Well, what do you need? You're going to need to sell that book to somebody. So talk to those people, talk to the schools, talk to the government, and ask them, okay, I'm writing a really good book right now on mathematics. Would you be interested in buying it? How much would it cost? Well, you give them the price. Okay. They say, okay, that sounds good. I think that's an affordable book for us. Okay, now you have your budget. Say, okay, now I need to publish the book. I need to print it and have somebody help me with the artwork, somebody with some pictures. So maybe you have like 1 or 2 other people helping you design the book so that it looks real nice, but keep the costs low. Have them share in the profits because they're going to help you sell the book more with their artwork. So you're getting more people involved in your project, but you're going to be able to make more money for you because of their help, and you'll be able to make money for them, and you're going to be able to just make more money. And you'll be able to create better projects because you have a team of people working for you. This is a kind of a model that is working for a lot of people right now who are called content creators. So in education, in different industries, you have content creators who are creating material for people to use. They're called content creators. And they're putting together teams of people to create content, books, videos, whatever. And it's becoming very profitable. You actually end up making a lot more money when you have other people with other talents helping you.
Okay.
And you'll have better energy, people getting together and say, okay, what do we need? We need some artwork. Okay, let's find somebody to do the artwork. That person comes in, you say, okay, what kind of art do you do? Let's see an example. Looks perfect. We need this, 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 and this. When can you have it done? Can you give me a month? Okay, you have a month to create 50 pieces of art. Go. And it just creates this energy of just creating and things that you can sell, including YouTube videos. Have you seen those YouTube videos where people are showing how to like build a hut in the forest?
Yeah.
Have you seen how many views? Have you seen how many views those videos have?
Yeah, yeah.
4 million, 10 million views? Do you know how much money that is? When you have a video that has like 4 million views? You could have a video showing how to build a school in Nigeria or Mozambique, Zambia, South Sudan. You show a series of videos of you building a school in wherever you are. And you can start the video about how you found the money, how you selected the site, what kind of school you were going to build. Then you're talking about how you contracted out somebody to build the school, how you paid them, how it went, and you can show videos from week to week how the school is developing. Do you have any idea how many people will watch your videos? Millions. No one, I've never seen a video of someone actually building a school. We might be able to see one. Let's go onto YouTube and do it. Building a school in Zambia. Why not? There's one here. It doesn't actually show it being built though. There's one, Zambian entrepreneur creates iSchool. Okay, it's got like 2,000 views. Here's the one, how to build a school in Africa. 1 million views. Good. How to build a school in Africa, 1 million views. We did it. We raised enough to build the entire school. Thank you so much. So they're basically saying thank you to somebody. They looked for money, they found the money, and now they're saying thank you because they built a school in Africa. 1.1 million views. Do you know how much money you get per view? That's so much money.
Then you have to have a YouTube channel first before you do that.
Oh, it's easy. Are you not able to do a YouTube channel?
I am able to.
So I just looked there and I didn't actually see anybody actually showing the process of building the school. And think about anything you're doing. Let's say you're working in healthcare and you're going around interviewing people in your community, showing different issues, and you're creating this journal, like a daily journal about a certain issue in your community, where you're interviewing people and giving your analysis. You're going to get known. You're going to have so many videos that you're going to start popping up on these search engines. People in your community are going to find you. People in your government are going to find you. People in businesses are going to find you. And they'll think, you're doing some wonderful work. How can we support you? Right? And that's where YouTube comes in. It's like, you will get known. People will find you. And they'll see the work that you're doing. And they'll come to you and say, what do you need? What do you need? How much money do you need? What do you need? Any professional developers? Do you need technology? Do you need anybody who can come in and help you develop this technology or help you build or something? So once you start putting out on social media, like a YouTube channel, an issue that you're working on in your community, your videos are going to attract help, support. And you can use artificial intelligence to help you write the script for those videos. You can say to artificial intelligence, I'm going to do a video on mosquito control in my community to reduce malaria. I need the video to be heartwarming, emotional, and attract donors to my project, financial donors, right? Be very specific, be very honest. I want to do a series of videos about mosquito control to attract financial donors to this project. Give me a script to work with. Press search answer, and all of a sudden, artificial intelligence will say, welcome everybody to this video about such and such and such. We have a very important issue for us to bring to you today that we're working on in our community. And you'll have the whole script right there that you can start building upon to create a video. And so ChatGPT will help you start the script, then you edit it with the information that you want in there. You create videos like that.
Nope.
And then after you do a lot of videos, you're going to attract donors. You're going to attract donors to your project because your videos were designed by artificial intelligence to attract donors to your project. Do you see how that works? This is evolution. This is the new thing happening, and it just happened, and we're giving you all the tools really fast so that you can just explode your careers. You want that donors to come in and fund you money for your projects? Tell artificial intelligence to create a video for donors who are going to give you money about your project. And it'll give you 3, 5, 10 minutes, whatever you want. You say, give me 5 minutes, give me 8 minutes, give me 3 minutes. And it'll give you text of 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. You can build upon that text to create your video. And then pretty soon you're interviewing people. You're showing pictures of what's going on. You create the videos, and you're creating like a series of videos. You're going to get known. People are going to see you. It might start off with 50 views, then 100. Then all of a sudden, someone clicks into it and starts sharing it. And all of a sudden, you've got 1,000, 10,000. Once you click into the right people, it just explodes. And then you're in business. Then you keep producing these videos. And the long-term result, you make money, your project gets funded, and your community is much better. This is how it's done. This is what you're doing. You're improving life for you and your community. Use your tools. Okay, I think we should probably call it the end. I want to start a cement industry in my country, South Sudan. Cement industry. Well, first of all, if you go into contracting like that, I'm going to take you to a YouTube channel. I'm going to take you to a YouTube channel it's called Markup and Profit by Michael Stone. Let me go back to Zoom here. I'm going to put up a link to that YouTube channel. This Markup and Profit is a book for contractors. It tells you exactly how to make money and not fail.
Okay.
The book Markup and Profit by, let me put up his name, Michael Stone. If you follow this book, if you follow everything this guy says in the book, you are going to succeed and make money. There's a lot of videos. I would really suggest getting the book. I cannot find the book for free on the internet. You're going to have to pay for it. If whatever the book costs, buy it. If you're going to start up a contracting business in the construction industry, buy this book. He says everything you need to do honestly and in a very practical way, what you need to do and how to do it. He gives you the forms to develop everything. He gives you the equations, the formulas, the principles, everything you need to be a success in the construction business. I used this book about 25 years ago to save a business that was going out of business. And they were landscaping, it was part of construction. They were losing. They were making like $1 million a year, but they were losing like $400,000 a year. And so they couldn't pay their. So they were making a lot of sales, but they were actually losing money every year. And so I went in there and said, we're going to follow this book. We're going to do everything in this book to save your business. Within 3 months, they were making money. They're still in business today. They were going out of business. When they contacted me, they said, we're going to be out of business in 4 months. Can you help us? So I went in there, and within 3 months, they were making money, and they're still in business today because of this book. And this book now has gone through a couple of like updates, so it's even better than when I used it to save a business. So now you use this book if you're in, you don't even have to be in construction to use this book. Even if you're doing contract work, like if you're a counselor, or even if you're, cooking food and taking food to people, to different organizations, or even if you have a restaurant, or even if you have, let's say you're in geotechnology, where you're giving services to people trying to look for geothermal sources of energy, or even if you're in wind power or solar power, this book will show you how to make money from your business. Even if you want to build a school and you're creating services, this book has principles to help you charge the right amount of money to make the most money you can. So you're not charging too much, you're not charging too little. This book is so simple and practical. There's no other book I've ever seen that compares to this book. And whatever the money costs to buy it is worth it, because it will save your business. And so you have the videos that you can go through on the site. And you'll also, if you look up Michael Stone on YouTube, you'll see interviews where people are interviewing him, or he's talking in front of a group. You'll also find some good information there too. So I want to make sure that you have the tools and the education that you need to be a success. I mean, a great success. That's what we do here at AIU. We want to make sure that you have everything you need to really be a great success, so that you have all of the tools, the knowledge at your disposal to just use. And if you have, let me just say, there's like many graduates, like 2 or 3 years after graduating, they'll come back and talk to me and say, look, I need to go to a conference in another country, and I need to prepare a PowerPoint presentation. Can you help me how to prepare a PowerPoint presentation? And I'll show them some books online for free. I'll show them some videos on YouTube for free. And then they prepare the PowerPoint with some transitions, make it look all nice and good. They have the pictures the right size, the font the right size, and then all of a sudden, their presentation is a complete success. And it's just a matter of saying, where do I find the information that's going to help me do the best? And you just start moving forward. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, Makbior, I would suggest if you can find, if you can't buy the book, watch the videos and create a series of assignments about that information. You know, how to make profit in construction, how to do change orders, how to work with customers, how to maintain quality, how to maintain your reputation in the industry, how to do marketing. There are videos about all of that. You can watch the videos and create assignments about that, and just add a course, construction marketing, and then add that course, write your assignment, submit it, and you've developed your ideas. The real strength of a university is anybody can learn. But the real strength of a university is putting your learning onto paper and writing an assignment and having somebody look it over. That's when your knowledge becomes yours. It becomes your knowledge because it comes through you and you write it down on a piece of paper. And until you work with the knowledge, it's just like somebody else's knowledge that's in your head. But once you write an assignment and you actually have to think about the subject and write the assignment, then it becomes yours. And that's the real value of a university, is that as you create your assignments for someone else to look at, you're making that knowledge yours. Because the other way to do it is you could just learn, get some books and learn, but you're never actually applying it. You're never actually writing an assignment. You're never actually doing something with the knowledge. It's not yours yet. But the university will make you do something with that knowledge by writing an assignment, and now it's yours. And that's the critical step. All right. I think that's it. Everybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lambert. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
We are here to help.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
All right. Get out there, go to work. Lots to do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doc.
Make your plans and then, make a list of to-dos. Keep that list growing. Always make a list of to-dos. So you say, I need to do this, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do that. Let's add it to the list. And then keep working through your to-do list. Oh, I need to check that out. Okay, put that on your to-do list. Keep your to-do list moving, growing. And that becomes your plan, your growing plan. All right?
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.